Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Inside Fnatic's Brush. I am your host, Matt Scott. As every Thursday, more or less, we're here to have a quick look over what's happened last week in the LEC. Especially the final week 8. That's it. We have our playoff standings. Everything is set. The 6 teams that will be heading into playoffs and their respective brackets have been completed. So we'll have a look at what happened on that final Super Week. The teams that could have made it, the teams that did make it, and expectations obviously going forward. We'll have, as usual, a look into Fnatic's performances. 2-1 week this time. An unfortunate loss to Misfits that, should have never happened. We'll talk about this more in detail afterwards. And we'll have a quick look at the current bracket for playoffs and what my first predictions are. So I've not got into the scores this time, but just what I think the playoffs will look like, and obviously who will be the victor of the 2022 spring split playoffs. So let's jump right in. Let me just put the music down for a quick second. I'm gonna try and not be distracted with the current CSGO game that's happening where Fnatic's playing. It's a bit of a difficult situation for the team, obviously, with a few players getting COVID, players leaving, having to jump in from academy and standings. So they're doing well so far in their first game. They're 8-7 on the half. So, but that's all for CS:GO. Maybe in the future podcast we'll have a CS:GO section. For now, let's talk about the LEC, guys. And LEC, this is it. There you have it. Final standings for the regular split. We have Rogue and Fnatic top 2 of the league this time, followed by Misfits and G2. So it's quite funny because those rankings are very close. It's like one game away from taking each other's place or going into tiebreakers, which almost happened, by the way, between Fnatic and Misfits, or G2 and Misfits. There was a lot of scenarios where either of these teams could have been at a different place in that top 4. But anyways, those are our top 4 upper bracket, who will have a chance to actually, who won't be kicked out, I should say, if they lose a first best of 5 and have a chance to play again, going through losers bracket this time. Starting in that lower bracket, losers bracket, whatever you want to call it, will be Excel and Vitality. And Vitality and Excel just squeezing it with a 9-9 scoreline, which is pretty much the minimum bar to qualify. I think only maybe a handful of times has this scoreline not been enough to actually qualify. And then unfortunately, we have 4 teams that haven't made it. Those being Astralis, difficult season for them. Actually, if you guys heard the news, have kicked out White Knight and Promiscu, of all people. Now, Promiscu had kind of been a long-standing for, I say long-standing, it's been there for a year and a half, but because of his personality, his way of playing, and his history of being with G2 when they won MSI, was a bit of a, I don't know if he was like a franchise player per se, if this is how we should call it, but for sure was definitely very representative of the Astralis brand. And, they stood with him despite the heavy critiques that were made throughout the season. And now, so I don't know if they decided to depart or if they were kicked. This part isn't really clear as far as I know. But in any case, Astralis not making it. BDS had a very, very difficult season. I personally thought that they would play much better than that with the built-in synergy. I've always valued, obviously, synergy over, the actual individual skills. Obviously, individual skills does play a part in the success of a team, but I think BDS had a good level of players overall, and that built-in synergy to the point where I thought they could actually challenge for playoffs. But very, very disappointing show from these guys, especially in terms of their behavior. From what's been said, um, Grabs was saying that some players were just not trying anymore because since they felt that well, they understood that they were not qualifying for playoffs, that there was no point in going forward. So apparently he had to straighten them up a bit, which is surprising for for players who want to be at the highest level. So I don't know. We'll have to see if they maybe get some changes. I think the off season will definitely be very interesting in that regard, because if Astralis is deciding to make moves where I didn't think they were gonna make any, I'm pretty sure that we should see the same for BDS, or maybe not. Maybe I get it completely wrong and BDS actually decides to stick together. Who knows? SK obviously not making it. They tried their best in the end, but kind of fell short against was it Vitality? I believe. Was it Vitality? Can't remember. No, it wasn't Vitality. It was. It was. It was. Let me check again. I had a look at this as well earlier today. Against Excel. Against Excel. There you go. So yeah, and unfortunately, Mad Lions just didn't work out for them. I'll actually use this opportunity to talk quickly about our top teams and our flop teams. Obviously, so we have Fnatic that, um, despite the 2-1 scoreline, I think they did really well overall. If it weren't for that unfortunate game against Misfits, where they were really dominating, and Hilly managed to turn around that three-man bot dive with his blind hook as well. He was absolutely. I mean, he was playing fresh, obviously, so he'll be exceptional in any case. But in particular this game, but the boys overchased objective bounties, and Jinx being Jinx managed to bring them back into the game. From a recent interview from Wunder, he also mentioned that the pause kind of made them lose their focus, which usually will happen during pauses. Fnatic has done pauses themselves, and opponents have said that it's had the same effect for them. So, you Misfits was apparently having massive ping issues, so you can't blame them for that. But it definitely did impact some of the outcome of the game. I've seen people saying, "Oh, well, the game was lost after the Jinx turnaround." I don't believe that's necessarily true. I think Fnatic was still fairly ahead at this point. They just misplayed different team fights, and Misfits then obviously snowballed with a lot of late game champions. So yeah, and obviously Schlatan on his Lee Sin, Neon on his Jinx, pretty comfortable champions for them, where they're able to perform well in the circumstances of a comeback. So yeah, all of that happened. But despite that, Fnatic had a very solid week against BDS, which is very one-sided. Misfits should have been a win, and XL, while it was a storm, there was a bit of happy gaming happening in the meantime. But with that said, they still managed to close the game, basically repeating a team fight in the mid lane that didn't happen very well the first time. Decided to do it again and completely dominated. That was absolutely brilliant, and also very funny situation for them. SK, who fought until the end, 2-1 scoreline as well. Gilius having a complete dominant game against Rogue. Everyone thought, obviously, because I think SK had to win their 3 games, and then hopefully the bottom teams like Excel, Vitality not win any. I think to have a chance to at least go into a tiebreaker. So that didn't happen for them, unfortunately. But um, they did, play up until the end. They played their full games. Just the Excel game was a bit all over the place, unfortunately for them, but still a good showing. We'll have to see if they do some changes. I don't think they will. I think they can. I think they just need to clean up some of their game states and some of their macro. But I think in terms of team fights, it can definitely be a menace in some situations. Finally, Mad Lions. I feel very bad for Mad Lions. They actually managed to get a 3-0 week. They play superbly and with a lot of strength, actually, going into the final 3 days. Especially if you look at their schedule, they had Vitality as their first game, and it didn't start really well, and everyone was like, "Well, that's game, guys. Like there's no chance for them." Them beating Vitality was giving them a great option on the victory at that moment. And what happened afterwards was that they had to pray that Vitality doesn't win the rest of their games. And Vitality just needed to win one game, and it came down to this. But yeah, obviously it's been a very hard split for Mad Lions, who just missed the minimum to qualify. A lot of games I feel like they could have won. They had those advantages. They didn't manage to close. I'm still very confident in the level of their players for sure, and I think they'll come into summer uh, way hungrier, obviously, and much stronger. I don't expect any changes from them. Looking at the Mad Lions structure, they're definitely, the staff, both coaches, analysts, and whatnot, are people who want to grow their own talent. And when they have rookies, when they had Humanoid when he was still part of Splice back at the time, they're able to make them reach their potential in the end. So quite confident in Mad Lions making playoffs next season, and depending on how the current playoff team perform, might grab a seat off of either Vitality or Excel, for instance. But we'll have to see. That's for a bit further down in the future. Looking a bit at the teams that flopped this time, we have Vitality that just cut it on the final day. Now, it's quite insane that a team qualified as a super team, and rightfully so, because across the board you have either players who have been at the best at their roles, or players that have um, uh, trophies either at an international level, like Perks, who has MSI, or at a more local league level, like Karzi. And I don't think Alfari has ever won anything yet, I believe. I'm trying to think. He didn't win anything when he was in NA, right, with Team Liquid. It was Cloud9 and 100 Thieves that won last year. So yeah. So I guess maybe in terms of trophies, like more Karzi and Perks, really. But if we look at the potential of the players, Alfari always been considered one of the best top laners in the West. Self-made, who I personally believe has improved so much as a jungler every year he's been playing in the LEC. It's just the bot lane, obviously, that can be questioned. Karzi is double LEC winner, but he did have Kaiser by his side. Labrov is fine. Yeah, it does have some potential, but I think you can easily put 3 to 4 better supports on top of him if you had to make like a support ranking at least. So yeah, that's a bit what might cause a problem, but still with the level of players that you have and their experience, you should be able to do way more than just six. As in we managed to qualify on the last game of the week. So yeah, very disappointing for Vitality. We'll have to see if their experience going into playoffs actually plays a part in the sense that are they just gonna flop the same way they did during a regular split, or are they gonna be a different beast in best of fives? Especially if you count that there's 3 good weeks between the last game of regular split and playoffs, and there will be a new patch with a lot of changes, especially in the AD carry meta. So that's one thing. And the other will be if they still stay at the same level, then what does it mean going forward? Like, are we expecting some changes? Because this is a very expensive team that's costing you multiple millions to keep. And you did a lot of branding, you did a lot of marketing, very good, amazing videos, but you're not even top 2. Like, what is going on? So yeah, I think very disappointed. Regular split for Vitality. Do the players care or not? I don't know, but in any case, they'll have to go for losers bracket and not drop a single best of 5, and they'll have some tough competition if the playoffs go the way I think they will. So yeah, little bit of a question mark over Vitality. Kind of same situation with Excel. Excel was in a comfortable position, and then it was all the memes about, haha, Kadro is joining Excel. They're not going to make playoffs. Well, they lost their first game, and thankfully they won well, thankfully for them, I should say, they won their game against SK that just kind of flubbered everything, but then lost their game against Fnatic on the final day. If SK had been at the same level and went 3-0, there's a world where they would have played tiebreaker against Mad Lions, I believe, potentially. So yeah, that would have been a big issue for them. So not too great. I feel like they kind of lost some of the steam that they had gained in the second half. So just like Vitality, they just lock in playoffs, but losers bracket going against Vitality, who might be a different beast going forward. It might be a short-lived first playoffs experience for them. That's all I'll say. And yeah, oh yeah. So G2. So I've put G2 there for their very questionable game against Rogue. Now, not just from my perspective, but from also other pro players' perspective. If you ever listen to PGL on Sunday from Odo, he thought it was very weird the way they drafted, the way they played, and the way some of the players behaved in terms of like their reactions on the map. So he was quite surprised that some of the champions, or that Fnatic opened some of the champions. What am I saying? That G2 opened some of the champions that they did. That they telegraphed 90% of their plays, and that some reactions to like ganks and stuff like this were very weird and not representative of what G2 actually do on a regular basis. So when you consider that this game didn't impact G2 because they were going top 4, but was impacting more Fnatic in terms of their rankings being first or not. Like, I don't want to go full conspiracy theory and put tinfoil hat on my head, but it was a bit of bullshit. Let's not hide it, guys. Let's not hide it. But yeah, so that's kind of my impressions on the final week. What I wanted to do, so look at the standings currently that we have. I'm gonna compare them to the ones I had at the very first episode of the split, where I try to predict the standings for this regular split, and this is what it looks like. As you can see, I was well. I do have a few correct, to be honest. I do have a few correct in the sense that G2 fourth is right, SK eighth was correct, and Australis last was correct. Apart from that, Vitality definitely not second team place. Mad Lions definitely not a playoffs team, and BDS even less. I really overestimated BDS on that one. I thought they would play much better. A lot of you know. Oh, not only me. I don't think anyone expected Rogue to perform so well, even less to actually be first in the rankings. Even though, when you actually look at the past splits, they have been. I believe they were first on both spring 2021 and summer 2021. So it's not really new for them to be at the top. I think people maybe put much more impact on the departures of Inspired and Hans Sama instead of what Comp and Marang were going to bring to the team. Same for Misfits. I didn't believe that the addition of Neon, Schlatan, and Mersad, I had never heard of, were actually going to help them be in contention. Instead, they get a top 4 seeding. So a lot of wrong, a lot of overestimating. Obviously, Excel that I've put way below. Obviously, this was with Advien. Now, I'll be perfectly honest. I didn't think that bringing Mickey into the team was necessarily going to make them playoffs for the first time. They did end only 5th, but still first time playoffs for them. So I guess it counts to some extent. But yeah, I had them way lower in that sense. Finn played much better than I expected. That's for sure. I'm trying to think. Yeah, I believe Finn was the only addition or change, I should say, they had made to the team. Nuke Dog had, I'd say, a better season, even though it wasn't necessarily too impressive overall. And yeah, I mean, Mickey did really help the team and change things for them all around, and pushed for playoffs qualification. Now, with that said, is that going to be enough for them to have a deep run into playoffs? I don't necessarily think so. So that'll be one to look out for. But yeah, quite a of an interesting predictions from my side. If I had to give it a score, well, let's have a look. Out of the 6 playoffs team, I got 1, 2, 3, 4 correct. So that's over 50%. That's not too bad. Mad Lions was 1 win away from making it there. BDS, on the other hand, was not even close. I got SK and Australis as the correct teams at the right place as teams that weren't going to make it. Definitely Misfits and Excel way lower than what they should have been. I'll give myself a bit of slack on Excel since they did change support and they brought in a world-class support with Mickey. So maybe that would have changed my predictions. Who knows? I'll give it a good. I'll give it a 7 out of 10. 7 out of 10. I don't know what you guys think. I think 7 out of 10 is just justifiably, you know, it's not bad, it's not great. It's, you know, it's 4 teams correct for playoffs plus 2 teams. So that's 6 teams out of 10 with 3 teams placed in the correct position. So surely that has to count for a little bonus, right? So 6 out of 10, little bonus for 3 teams at the correct spot. We'll round it up. We'll round it up to 7. Okay, but yeah, did you guys have similar predictions? Did you have misfits? Did you have Excel in playoffs? Did you have some teams that didn't make playoffs in the playoffs? Let me know in the comments below. I'd be very curious about what you guys had on your side. So hopefully for summer playoffs, I get summer playoffs, so summer regular split. I get better predictions. There might be a lot of changes in rosters, so which might make it difficult. Depending also on who wins playoffs and goes to MSI, that might affect their energy going forward. So a lot of things to be taken into consideration when we'll be looking at summer, but we're not there yet. We're not there yet. First there's playoffs, but first we're gonna have a look at Fnatic. So Fnatic securing a top two spot with a very nice scoreline of 13 and 5. As of the games for last week, they faced BDS, Misfits, and Excel. Um, to begin with, the BDS game was quite dominant. They just controlled the map from start to finish on every aspect. Even uh, gave what's his name, Wunder, a gank, which I think probably was one of the first ganks top lane in years. So that's just to tell you how much we were winning. That Razor felt the need to go help our top side, weak side king, as people like to call him. Hilly bringing out the Renata on first try. Obviously practice before, but first try for EU, and he's just already super lethal with it. It was a Caitlyn Renata bot lane, and using the handshake to stun and displace them onto the trap. Wow, wow. He's already like figured out the champion already, and that combined with his R ultimate that allowed him to prevent team fights in like choke points, so especially around the dragon pit. Hits a 4-man. Is it a hostile takeover? I think that's the name where the enemies go berserk and hit each other. So that was a very well played team fight. 4 kills in there. Absolutely very well played by Hilly again with a much deserved MVP and definitely putting himself even closer to I think regular split MVP. Obviously, there's a lot of contention with VTO, which is absolutely normal. I've heard a lot of different arguments as to why VTO should take it, Haley Sang should take it. Um, you know, VTO definitely has those 1v9 games, but I feel like Haley Sang has been more consistent overall and has really like turned around some some champions that should not have been engaged. For instance, like the flash double bomb Zillion, which only Haley Sang is able to do that and kind of redefine some of the ways the champions are played, and being able to bring back the Pike as well when he had been recently nerfed, and kind of how would I say this? Inspiring some other players like Targamas to pull it off as well. So the title of Professor definitely well earned, and hopefully he gets the title of MVP. It was quite funny actually to hear a lot of current pros saying what. Hilly Sang never got MVP, but he's having so many MVP performances every split. So just goes to tell you how good our support is. Obviously, second game against Misfits. I've mentioned it before. Was a bit of happy gaming. We extended a bit too far in a team fight. Jinx was untouchable, getting help with the time catch and getting help from the shutdowns, which despite like I believe there's a state in a game where Upset is 6-1 and Neon is 1-6. They have even farm and somehow they're even gold. And that's thanks to like, well, either got Dragon shut down or Herald shut down and a couple of turrets. And ah, how is that even allowed, man? Is if you're getting absolutely turbo stomped in lane, you should never have access to that much gold. But you know, the game is the game. They know the rules. That's we're kind of victim of our success, where there's many games where we stomp the early game so hard that we give access to bounty gold, and obviously in pro play, unless you're really like turbo stomping the opponent, you're always going to trade objectives, right? You're going to go top turret for bottom turret, herald for Drake, and stuff like this. So you can't just keep like a completely immaculate side of the map and say, oh, we have very good early games, so even though they have access to bounties, we're never going to let them touch one of our turrets, and they'll never have access to bounties. The teams in pro play, unless they're absolutely garbage, are going to be able to, you know, get a get a turret, get a neutral objective, and not because the opponent team decides to not fight for it, but because they will prioritize a different place. So they'll say, "Hey, maybe we got the first two Drakes in the game. We are actually trying to make a play on the top side to break like tier 2 turret, so we'll leave the Drake to our opponent because we value having more space onto the map and gaining more like vision control over getting a third stack of Drake, for instance." So what's going to happen is that obviously opponent is going to say, great, Drake is free, we get it. On top of that, we get a little bit nice bit of cash behind from the bounty. So a team like Misfits is going to be able to do that because they're not bottom of the standings. So it definitely benefited them a lot, especially with late game champions such as Jinx. I believe they had the Victor as well. So yeah, I think a lot of lessons taken from this game for the Fnatic players. So not really too worried. Just a bit of a bummer because that game pretty much cost us first place, which again is more for bragging rights to say we're first in league. Top two is very nice as well, but yeah, it was a one game. Different bullshit situations happened. The pause that again made them lose their focus, according to Wunder. So yeah, but still very solid game. There was like 6 to 7k gold difference, I believe, at one point. So I think it still showcases the level of the team, and I'm not too worried about what it means for them, especially going into playoffs. Especially when you consider that the next game against Excel was again a very dominant game. A lot of back and forth where, constantly fighting, some players being in positions they should have not been. Some action happening in a bot lane, and suddenly there's also action happening in the top lane. It's completely disjointed. It started getting scary when we were kind of losing some team fights, especially since they had the Jinx, but we had a very fed Zeri on our side, so did balance it out. In the end, it was also a very complicated game for Wunder, who had to play against a fed Camille who could just basically kill him on their turret. So he still managed to play the game correctly despite being behind. Upset very well ahead. Another Renata game for Hilly that even that created a situation where Nuke Duck killed Mickey during the hostile takeover. So and Hilly, the madman that he is, still flashed to make sure that the kill was secured. So a lot of fun games, I would say. Some happy moments. Um, it all ended with an ace team fight into the mid lane. Humanoid trying to catch Mickey, who is out of position, trying to clear a ward. Um, Razork manages to chase and catch him with the Heartbreaker, and then just goes on one reset onto another. Razork was super far ahead anyways, so he literally won like 1v3 into the backline, kills the Jinx, kills. What was he playing? Was he playing? Can't remember what Marcoon was playing. Was he playing Diana? Let me check 2 seconds. Fnatic XL. He was playing Xin Zhao, sorry. So yeah, he just completely. I'm just gonna have a quick look at the replay again because it was so satisfying. But yeah, so that's the team fight where they almost lose. Mickey goes for a clear on the mid lane, gets caught by Humanoid, who's really just like limit testing the amount of engages where it's like 1 HP. And yeah, Razork gets the hook onto the Jinx. Heartbreaker reset onto Marcoon. Absolutely magnificent. Very, very well played by the whole team. Double kill for Upset. And actually, yeah, that's the other point I wanted to make. Upset concludes with 2 records. One personal record, one LEC record. The LEC record being the lowest numbers of deaths throughout a split, where I believe he ended at 11. So he did get. It was almost like touch and go at the Misfits game because he got like 3 deaths there, and it wasn't looking good. And the XL game, another game where he's deathless. I guess I don't know if it can be counted as a record, but 0 deaths at 14 minutes, which is quite incredible. Means he never died to a single gank, and 1,000 kills. So for a personal record, in the LEC, I believe the final kill he gets on the last team fight gives him just the right number of 1,000 kills in the LEC slash ELCS. Obviously, he's been around for quite some time, so much deserved MVP for Offset. He's been denied the chance of an MVP, and obviously made it a bit of a joke. But congratulations to him. Finally gets an MVP. I'm sure like if he performs that well into playoffs, there's no reason for him to not get. So I don't know if there's playoffs MVP or if it's just finals MVP. There might be both, but one of the two, I'm sure he'll be able to get. But with that said, yeah, absolutely incredible season for Fnatic. Definitely the real super team. Impressed by the level of each players. Offset and Hilly, kind of a given, but I feel like they've gone another level, especially with Upset being able to be deathless. Humanoid, that's been a great addition to the team. Completely dominating his lane, able to play whatever type of champions, control, mages, assassin, roaming, and being like a silent carry where he doesn't have to 1v9 every game, but he's able to be a really big contribution and in every game, and usually is like one of the highest DPMs into the team. Razork, who had a bit of a slow start, not being too confident in joining a team of quite successful players, and feeling like is suffering a bit of what do you call it, imposter syndrome, but it feels like he's slowly gaining more confidence. He's enjoying the games. He's feeling his actual level, and he's definitely grown into the team. Where if you look at his past games, he's been really really solid, and not as coin flippy. He's dying a bit more, but he's still able to get stuff done for his team, and it really reminds me of when Bwipo went into jungle, and I think he's embraced a bit of the Hilly Sang playstyle of like go in and try to get as many kills, and if you die it doesn't matter as long as you manage to create an advantage for your team. So very happy about his progress. He's a super sweet guy as well. I really, if you haven't listened to his interviews or the little videos he does with with Pete at the end game, or even like in the highlight videos where you can see like some behind the scenes. He's a cute guy. He's a very cute guy. He's super sweet, and I'm very happy that we have these type of people within the team. Really, really deserved. And Wunder, I think a lot of people had kind of slept on him, and they thought that they that Fnatic had gotten a sort of outdated player in a sense that he's not able to be as good as he was back in 2019, 2020, and his best days are behind him. He's playing insanely well for weak side. He's getting no focus at all on his lane from his jungler, except maybe for the BDS game. But he's holding his own. Is not losing hard or whatsoever. Might be behind sometimes in CS, but isn't getting completely giga stomped to the point where he has no impact on the game afterwards, and it becomes a 4v5. And he's actually like, if you look some of the stats, tends to be like top 2 DPM, sometimes top 2, top 3 at the end of games. So a lot of impact definitely, in especially during team fights and then pressuring side lanes. So I think we can be very happy about this team going into playoffs, and how well they'll be able to do. Top 2, I think, really reflects their level, and I think they'll with more practice, like the 2 weeks practice going into playoffs. We've seen especially like Humanoid becomes a different beast in playoffs, and how he's turned things so much for Mad Lions, especially last year summer where Mad Lions was kind of struggling during the regular season, and went on to become LEC champions. Hilly-Sang as well just brings it up a notch again into playoffs. So very excited to see what they're capable of doing, especially in a different meta. I hope that we get a better read, or that we get a proper read on the meta going into the weeks of playoffs. Speaking of a little playoffs predictions, so here's how I think it's gonna play out. So looking at the upper bracket, I definitely think Rogue is going to have the upper hand on Misfits. I think this version of Rogue will be much better in best of fives. There is that sort of, how do you call it, narrative. Well, not necessarily narrative, but this demonstration of Rogue of being really good in regular season, not able to convert it during playoffs. I think this time it's a different structure, different players who are maybe a bit more flexible on their way of playing. So I'm expecting them to win against Misfits rather comfortably. If I had to predict the score, I'd probably say 3-1 for Rogue. Kind of same for Fnatic. I think there's a massive gap between Fnatic and G2, especially in a best of 5 circumstance where you look at players like Flackett and maybe Targamas that haven't played a lot of best of 5s at a higher level. Obviously, Targamas is not a rookie, but hasn't spent a lot of time in EULCS/LEC, so maybe this will be another challenge for him. But again, he's been rather solid, I'd say. So maybe for Flack it might be a bit more difficult in that aspect. So I'm expecting another 3-1 score for this game. And Excel Vitality was actually very hard to predict. I'm gonna go with my approach that Vitality has a lot of experienced players, and Excel is qualifying for the first time for playoffs. So I think it might be a close game. I'm gonna go with a 3-2 on that one, with Vitality going through. And then for the rest of the seeding, well, obviously G2 being fourth, they would be the first ones to drop. Uh, I think G2 will be better than Vitality, but that might be a big mistake on my part because depending on how Vitality show up on their first game, they might actually be able to go a bit further down and go until the semifinals. So top of mind is going to be that G2 is this more solid team, but in a best of five, it's a whole complete different scenario. So we'll have to see how that plays out. I believe G2 and Vitality are 1-1 throughout the season. So yeah, I'm just really curious about this one. But let's say G2 goes forward, then they would face Misfits. I believe they would take over Misfits, being a much more solid team, I think, overall. And then against Rogue, I believe Rogue have been stronger than G2 during the regular split, and maybe in a best of five with the specific structure of players would be able to take it. So then it would be a second best of fives against Rogue, with Fnatic. I genuinely think so. This is not me on full copium. I genuinely believe that we're able to win it all with this team, and we're gonna have a very dominant playoffs run. Maybe I'm jinxing it. It's possible, but I have very high hopes for this team. So yeah, I don't. I'll try to come up with a way for you guys to put in your predictions. I didn't check the current standings for the previous week. I have to add the scores, but um, I'll have a look. I'll probably share them on the Twitter. So if you guys want to follow, it's down there at IFB Podcast. If you want to vote on the next playoffs poll that I'll try to make, for it to be a bit more precise and not just say either, you know, Rogue or Misfits win, but the actual score. And I don't know, I wanted to say something else. Will probably come up. Oh yeah, and obviously I'll update the standings with the score of week 8 just so we can see how close we are, and I'll try to determine like how we can consider bonus points. So probably be like 1 point if you get the right winner, and 3 points if you get the right score, obviously. So that's about it, guys. Let me know if you think the playoffs are gonna play out differently in the comments below. I'm super interested in knowing what you guys think, what your opinion, if you think also Fnatic's going to win, if it's going to be closer than this, and if actually Fnatic are going to stomp it all. But with that said, this concludes our somewhat final episode of the regular split of Inside Fnatic's Brush. As usual, thank you again for following on Twitch, watching the VODs on YouTube. Let me know what type of content you want me to do, or if you just want to also take a break on your side, and we'll take it again after round 1 of playoffs to kind of sum up what happened, how the teams are looking. I'm always open to suggestions anyways, but guys, thank you again for tuning in. Enjoy the break. I'm going blurry for some reason, so this will be a blurry exit. Yeah, be patient for LEC. Hope you don't get too bored, and I'll see you next time. See you guys.